prepared, I come prepared. Ready? Yeah, I come prepared, I come prepared, I come prepared. Oh now, yeah, I come prepared, I come prepared, I come prepared. And we're ready. Yeah, I come prepared, I come prepared, I come prepared. Yeah, I come prepared, I come prepared.
If you think it impossible for Chinese people to have accepted Islam, do some research into Zheng He, a Chinese Muslim who traveled to this land 70 years before Columbus did, and you will also find out that he refused orders to subdue his Moorish brothers over here in the United States, whom history writes as Berbers, because of his faith in Islam. Another point to note is that Islam was being taught here in the Americas since 700 AD, which is what I mentioned earlier. And this is something that every last Afrocentric scholar has failed to mention, even the likes of those who claim to know all history like Dr. York. It is we, the Moorish American Muslims today, the new Moors, who have eyes wide open and are being led by Allah to the real truth. Noble Drew Ali told us, Moors, Islam is yours. That is why you don't recognize it. There have been many puppets set in place to make sure that you did not ever recognize it again. But we are here now, and we are putting truth back at the forefront, and all lies must stop. Yes, they must end now.
That's what it is. Now, I went off into, this also was in the 101, when they speak about who took the head of Satan. And it says Muhammad in 1453 in Byzantine. I went and looked the brother up, the cracker, Arab, Turk, and this is what it speak about. Stephen Rushman recounts a story by the Byzantine Emperor Dukas, known for his colorful and dramatic descriptions, in which Mehmed, or Mutmut, which is Turkish for Muhammad II, upon conquest of Constantinople, was said to have ordered the 14-year-old son of the Grand Duke Lucas Nostris brought to him for his personal pleasure. When the father refused to deliver his son to such a fate, he had them both decapitated on the spot.
This is what happens when you have pseudo-scholarship coupled with an opponent who is not there to protect the integrity of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, but to push some off-brand form of Moorish science to bolster up his faction of Moorish package pushers. But behold, a true Moorish vanguard of the Prophet is here with the scimitar to cut off all of these lies. Now let me continue. In the book, The Age of the Beloveds, Love and Be Loved in Early Modern Ottoman and European Culture and Society, written by Walter G. Andrews and Mehmet Kalpakli in 2005, we cite, as Dukas tells it, when Constantinople fell and the youthful Mehmet, he was only 21 at the time, entered in triumph, he thought to offer Notaris a position as leader of the Greek community in the now Turkish city. But when he demanded Notaris's handsome youngest son, supposedly to be used sexually to sate the Sultan's perverted lust, Notaris refused, and the merciless Mehmet had Notaris, as well as his oldest son and son-in-law, executed. Some people who are familiar with the history of stories about sex and love will recognize close parallels to the story of St. Pelagius, the 13-year-old Christian martyr of the early 10th century, said to have been a beautiful and pious youth who was tortured and dismembered by the Cordoban Caliph Abdurrahman III when he refused the Caliph's sexual advances. It is easy to see how it could have seemed meaningful and hopeful to a Greek mourning lost Byzantium to reference the cult of St. Pelagius, which for centuries provided spiritual energy to the Spanish Reconquista. Thus, although it is likely that Dukas's tale owes more to St. Pelagius and the long history of attempts to portray Muslims as morally inferior than to anything that actually happened during the conquest of Constantinople/Istanbul, it is a useful story for our purposes nonetheless. So here we see the author explaining that this story was merely an attempt to discredit Islam and the Islamic rulers. The story is not true. Now, Sultan Muhammad II, was a devout Muslim, and he was beaten in his youth with the permission of his own father, Murad II, by his mentor, Lord Ahmad bin Ismail Gorani, so that Mehmed, the young Mehmed, could learn the Quran. The teacher went to him and entered with the rod in his hand and said, I was sent by your fathers to teach you, and I will beat you if you violate my orders. Mehmed laughed at this speech, in which Gorani then struck and severely beat Mehmed. Thereafter, Mehmed feared his teacher and thus finished the Quran easily. I bring that up to say, when we look to the Quran and there is mentioned homosexuals called Qawm Lut, the people of Lot, and please excuse my Arabic pronunciations, I do not speak the language. They are condemned in the story of Lot's people in the Quran. There are several passages in the Quran of Mecca that speaks to this sin of homosexuality. Quran, chapter 7, verse 80 to 82, chapter 26, verse 165 through 175, chapter 27, verse 55 through 58, chapter 29, verse 28 through 29, chapter 4, verse 15 through 16. So Seti's claims are based upon a version given by Europeans who always wrote history to discredit Islam and its great men. To further prove this claim, we quote from Tariq Berry, who published a book entitled The Unknown Arabs. Another cause of the misunderstanding of the true appearance of the original Arabs is the spread of Pan-Africanism, which took place after the independence of the so-called African countries. After the people in these countries were totally brainwashed by the colonizers, they developed new ideas about themselves and their relations to the Arabs. The European colonizers convinced them to reject their traditions of Arab origin and to separate themselves from the Arab world. They convinced them to disbelieve what their fathers and grandfathers had told them about their being Arabs and to believe what they had to say about their origin. That's right. They convinced them to call their fathers and grandfathers liars and to believe them, the very people who say that Ariel Sharon is a Hebrew. The European colonizers taught them in the colonizer-controlled school systems and missionaries that the Arabs are white, that they are black, and that there is no relation between the two.
When you got heat like this, you're supposed to get emotional. Marcus Garvey never supported the Moorish Science Temple, using his name to lure new recruits and followers. Just another case of mass deception. Why would Marcus Garvey support Jew Ali when Jews Muhammad Ali was forced from the UNIA for the same Turkish rhetoric? Let me go into this. At each temple meeting of the Moorish Science Temple, Garvey was lauded as John the Baptist who prepared the way for the coming of noble Jew Ali. When Leonard Smith, the president of the Detroit UNIA division, cabled Garvey to report that Ali was using Garvey's name to win over followers and that the UNIA members were joining his movement, Garvey replied that I know nothing of the man referred to. It is silly for people to allow every unknown person to agitate and influence them on such serious matters. I have spoken and written enough for the people of Detroit to understand the purpose of organization and not to allow strangers to decoy and exploit them by calling on or using my name. Smith to Garvey, September 19th, 1927, and Garvey to Smith, September 21st, 1927.
However, just 1 month later, Mr. Garvey would change his tune. Firstly, we will start with why the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali called Marcus Mosiah Garvey the runner-up and the harbinger. We cite the Honorable Marcus Garvey from the book Race First, written by Tony Martin, where Marcus Garvey said, "The Negro is crying out for a Muhammad, a prophet to come forth and to give to him the Quran of economic and intellectual warfare. Where is he?" Garvey cried. These words by Garvey were indeed prophetic, as Noble Drew Ali had been in the United States since 1913, teaching our race about civics, politics, finance, Islam, nationality, and business. Marcus Garvey is also famous for saying, "The Negro wants a nationality equal to that of the French, the English, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Irish, etc." It was Noble Drew Ali in the year of 1928, October 16th, at the Moorish Convention held in Chicago, Illinois, who declared us a nation for the first time on this land since the pale-skinned nations of Europe took control of this, our native land. These nationals were called what they are called today, Moorish Americans, thus fulfilling Marcus Garvey's mission, as he was not aware that he was being led by Allah to introduce the coming of the Prophet. And this we read from the Moorish Quran in the words of Noble Drew Ali. Chapter 48. The end of time and the fulfilling of the prophecies. The last prophet in these days is Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared divinely in due time by Allah to redeem men from their sinful ways and to warn them of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. John the Baptist was the forerunner of Jesus in those days, to warn and stir up the nation and prepare them to receive the divine creed which was to be taught by Jesus. In these modern days there came a forerunner of Jesus, who was divinely prepared by the great God Allah, and his name is Marcus Garvey, who did teach and warn the nations of the earth to prepare to meet the coming prophet, who is to bring the true and divine creed of Islam, and his name is Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared and sent to this earth by Allah to teach the old-time religion and that everlasting gospel to the sons of men, that every nation shall and must worship under their own vine and fig tree, and return to their own and be one with their Father, God Allah. So in this we see that Garvey did come and shake up the nation with the type of speech that they, the so-called Negro, had never heard before on a nationwide scale. But we also see that he did not have the power to do what he wished for. Make the Negro into a nation and bring to them the book of economic and intellectual warfare. That book is the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Let me also point out that Garvey, though a Christian, made many references to Islam and was inspired by Islam, and thus he did not know his mission as runner-up to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, for Allah is the best of planners. Many followers of Marcus Garvey claim that he and Noble Drew Ali never met, something that Moors in the Moorish Science Temple of America knew full well, but denied by Garvey's own followers because of the letter sent in 1927 of September, while Garvey was imprisoned, as we shown in the video clip being read by Mr. Seti. However, we see in this postcard dated a month later, October 23rd, 1927, that Noble Drew Ali sent to his wife from federal penitentiary that Garvey was being housed in at Atlanta, Georgia, and it reads, "Dear wife, I have been to see Mr. Garvey at the federal prison. I will be home Saturday or Sunday. Love to all." And it is signed by Noble Drew Ali himself. It is also said in the oral history of the Moorish Science Temple of America that in this visit, Noble Drew Ali nationalized Marcus Garvey, and he was released under the condition that he leave the United States, and thus was pardoned by President Coolidge, Calvin Coolidge, a known Ku Klux Klan supporter, in a time when these types of actions, pardons, and particularly for a quote-unquote Negro trying to awaken his people, was simply unheard of. This speaks to the power and magnitude that Noble Drew Ali as a prophet and as a diplomat possessed.